Alisyn Camerota. Anna has just published her latest book, Italian Snacking, Sweet and Savory Recipes for Every Hour of the Day. And Alisyn Camerota is a fellow member of the National Organization of Italian Women, but also, have you seen her on CNN lately? Yes, she is very busy, and she'll be back with us in just a few weeks for her own book. But tonight we're going to have a really exciting, moderated conversation between the two, all about Italian snacking, and I can tell you a little bit about the book. So, in Italian cuisine, there's an entire category of smaller bites, spuntini. Is that more or less spuntini? Meant to be enjoyed at in-between meal moments of the day. Goss's new book introduces the American audience to a complete range of spuntini culture with recipes drawn from across the country, punctuated by gorgeous photography. This book will elevate your snacking game to the Italian ideal. And the book is absolutely gorgeous. It's on sale. It actually launches tomorrow. So this is a really exciting pre-launch. So make sure to support Elm Street Books during and after the program. And if you have any questions, we're going to leave some time at the end, so make sure to keep your questions locked and loaded, and I'll come around with my microphone. Okay, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Anna and Alisyn. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Great to see all of you tonight. Do you say Anna or Anna?
So if you're Italian, you're going to say Anna, and if you want more of an American flair, then you'd say Anna. So
I'm going Anna.
Okay.
So I was just looking through this beautiful book, and you know, the second you open it and see the photographs, you're just salivating. I mean, that's what's going to happen. I just want to warn everybody in the audience, you're about to be starving. That's what's going to happen during this conversation. So let's start at the beginning. Tell us your relationship. Let's start with Italy. So you were born in Italy.
I was born in Italy. I have an Italian mother and an Italian-American father that met in Italy, and I was born there. And
what town?
It's Acre, Calabria, so I'm a southern girl. And we moved back to the United States. Well, for my dad, it was moving back to the United States when I was 1 year old, and we moved to a little town called Westerly, Rhode Island, which is where my dad grew up. And if you like going to the beach, you might know Westerly. So I grew up in Rhode Island in a very Italian town. My mom knew most of the people that lived there, even though she was not from the U.S. A lot of them immigrated from the same area of Italy that she was from. So it was a very tight-knit Italian community. I used to joke you're either Italian, Irish, or both if you moved in my town. We had like 5 Catholic churches. So it was a great place to grow up and just celebrate Italian traditions through the church and even at home. My home was kind of like Little Italy. Even to this day, I speak to my mom in Italian. And I feel like Italy's my first true love. I love going back. Even though I left at 1 year old, my family is there. And when I return, it really does feel like I'm going home. So I really wanted to do a book that I felt celebrated what I really love about Italy, which, surprise, surprise, is the food.
And was the cooking in your home strictly Italian?
Yeah, I mean, my mom wasn't really making many meatloaves. Yes, we ate a lot of Italian food, Southern Italian cuisine, and I talk about it a lot in my first book, Your Own Kitchen, because one thing I thought was so fabulous about immigrants, all immigrants, is that they came to the United States, they assimilated, but they never stopped making their dishes from home. So that was very much the case in my home. Meatballs, homemade pasta, minestrone, all the things that you hear about, that's what I grew up eating. I was a very unlucky, bad child. It was actually pretty phenomenal growing up with a mother that cooked all the time and really introduced us to all the food, because it's a tether, right? It's a tether to the homeland. So when she's making a dish and it's something she ate growing up, it reminded her of her family. She'd tell us the stories. So even though I live in Italy, I only got to visit every once in a while, I always felt connected to my grandparents and to my culture.
And so still, when you were writing this book, you didn't just rely on the food of your home, your childhood home, you went back to Italy.
I went back to Italy, and what was really nice was, this was an education for me because, you know, what's another great, all right, let me just preface this by saying, all night I'm gonna tell you about how much I love being Italian and love Italy, so hopefully you're okay with that. But one of the things I really do love about Italy and appreciate is how, because it's this magical peninsula, as I call it, you can be up north having fondue after skiing, and then you can go to the shores of Sicily and have a rice bowl. And I thought that was really cool, and I wanted to investigate that. You know, all of the different influences. You know, if you're in the South, you're gonna have a lot of African and Arabic influences. If you're in the North, you're gonna have a lot of German and Austrian influence, and how that influences the food. And what's really nice about Italy is something I think we're trying to get back to in this country, which is the farm to table, that, you know, there's not a lot of domestic importing in Italy. You know, people eat what grows in their backyard, even today. So, you know, you can go to Cervinia, but they're not gonna serve you pizza. And my kids were very disappointed about that. But, you know, it's just really fascinating. So when I found all the snack foods of all the different regions, I really wanted to educate people about that and also explain how, you know, based on where you're standing in that lovely boot, heel, you know, thigh, wherever you are, you're gonna have certain type of cuisine. So I thought that was fun.
Well, this has educated me, just doing research for this tonight and reading the book, because I thought that America was the land of snacking. I didn't know that Italy was the land of snacking. My impression, having been there and also being Italian-American, was that Italians are very deliberate about their meals. They sit over a meal, they linger, they don't stuff their face, they don't overeat. When they eat, and they aren't just constantly sticking their hand in a bag and like popping chips in their mouth all day like we are in America. So am I wrong? Do I need to adjust my impression of that?
Well, I think that you're right. I think that we definitely have a snack culture here. I would venture to say it's more of a processed snack culture. Exactly what you said. You know, you're running into a meeting. Let me grab some trail mix. You know, I need to get home. Let me, you know, eat something prepared. Throw something in the microwave. And I get it. You know, we're very busy, and I think in the United States we are very focused on our careers and, you know, time management, which there's never seems to be enough hours in the day. And I think in Italy the culture is different because I think they prioritize differently. It's not better or worse, it's just different. So yes, Italians snack. They snack so that they don't, like you said, stuff their face when it comes to different, because maybe we didn't eat all day because we had back-to-back meetings and then we come home famished. Well, Italians don't do that because at 10 o'clock in the morning, as you'll see in the book, they have a mid-morning snack. You know, you might go to the post office in Italy at 10 a.m. and you're not going to be able to mail your letter, but someone is having a snack because they've decided to take a moment, refresh, sit down, have a cappuccino, have a couple of cookies, and then get on with their day. Same thing in the afternoon. You know, we do afternoon snacks for our kids here, but in Italy, it's very romantic. It's called merenda. It comes from the Latin word merere, which means to deserve. So what happens? You go to school all day, you work really hard, you answer questions for the teacher, and you come home, and what do you find? Well, your nonna has made a cake, and it's nice little slices sitting for you because you deserve an afternoon snack. So Italian kids really, really love their merenda. It's very important to them. And then the next thing that I talk about is the adult snack, which we have embraced in this country, which is cocktail hour.
Yes.
The aperitivi. But Italians do that differently too, because they don't have traditional bars there. You don't go to a bar that's just beer and cocktails. It doesn't exist. You're going to go to a cafe or a restaurant that serves all those things, but you're not going to leave hungry because a drink is always paired with a snack.
That is different. I mean, that is one of probably the biggest differences of our culture, is that here we just drink. And Italians wouldn't think of that. They don't just pop open a bottle of wine and start drinking wine. They're pairing it with food.
Always. Yeah.
Which sounds healthier, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, because the goal is different, right? It's more convivial. You know, here I think sometimes people drink just to drink, whereas there it's very much a social activity. It's about the appreciation of what you're drinking, and then what can I eat with it that's going to taste really good. You know, maybe it's a little bit of parmigiano, maybe it's a little bit of prosciutto, or maybe it's one of the snacks from the Alisyn book.
Yeah, indeed. And so, I mean, also, I think we all have had this, if you've traveled to Italy, it's possible that you've seen this kind of Italian paradox where you go to Italy and you're drinking wine and you're eating gelato every day, or like my husband, twice a day. And you are eating pasta at every meal and you come home having lost weight, which makes no sense. And so what, can you explain that secret? Why is that?
Okay, well, my answer has not been studied by the FDA or dietitians, but my theory is exactly what you said before. Italians don't eat to the point of feeling too full. Even if you go out to eat and you have the primo, the secondo, you know, you do all the courses in the restaurant, you'll notice that the portions are very small, because they actually, it has been studied, that after 3 bites, you don't really taste it anymore. You're not really tasting, you're eating and you're still hungry, but it's those first 3 bites when you're actually, your palate and your taste buds are appreciating that food that you're eating. So if you have a plate of pasta that's 5 or 6 bites, and of course you're gonna have something come next, and you had something before, but you're really gonna appreciate that. You're gonna appreciate the ingredients. I also think the reason that Italians aren't overweight is because, again, it's that same farm to table. You know, you can have a plate of pasta, but everything in that dish grew in a farm nearby. It's not heavily processed, and the dish came together with a couple of items. Nothing is overly dressed, overly, you know, it's really simple food. And of course, it does go back to la cucina povera, which is the fact that most of the foods that you eat in Italy that we revere today was created by peasants. So it was what was available, but it also lends to ingenious, creative dishes made with really nothing.
Okay, so when you went around Italy, north, south, central, Sicily, tell us about what you came away with, what your favorite snacks were from each region.
So, as a child, I did what most people do. You know, you go to Florence, you go to Rome, I go to Calabria to visit my family. I had never been to Sicily. It was a place that I don't know that I just had never really thought about going, but because I found out that Palermo, the capital of Sicily, has been called the street food capital of the world, I said to myself, in the name of research, I need to go to Palermo.
Yes.
Bye, family. So I headed to Palermo, and it was a wonderment. Everyone pack your bags. I suggest September, October, when it's not too hot, and all the tourists have left. But it was amazing. I mean, the street food there, I mean, these vendors calling out, come eat what I need.
Like what kind of street food is this?
All right, we're not talking like nuts for nuts and pretzels here. Not that. We're talking frito misto, like someone's frying fresh fish that they just caught for you to have in a little dish. Fried pizzas, regular pizza, rice balls. I mean, I said to myself, do people here need to cook? Because I was stuffed by the time I got home from work. Like, you're just walking through, and these vendors, they get out there early in the morning, and they're there till late night. So it's so fun. So what I did was everything I tried, I was like writing it down, and I recreated them at home. And again, because Italian food is pretty simple, I got pretty close to the original.
Yeah, I wonder about that, because sometimes it doesn't taste as good when you're not in Italy anymore. And so can we all recreate this, I think, to some facsimile of what you had there?
Well, I'll tell you, when I go to Italy, we don't always stay in hotels. Sometimes we get Airbnbs because my kids, they like for me to cook, you know. It's easy with kids to have a place like a kitchen. And the kids always just say to me, I don't know, Mom, like your cooking just tastes better here. So I think some of it is emotional. You know, you're on vacation and you're having fun. I do think that the ingredients there do have a better taste. I don't want to get into, you know, farming in the US and GMO, that's all big drag, but I think that the food there is produced of a little bit higher of a quality. So the tomato that you have theirs is going to taste a little bit better than that tomato here.
Oh, yeah.
But
Tomatoes. Particularly the tomatoes.
But I think also, you know, one thing that we do in this country, which is good, is, you know, if you want to eat a strawberry in December, you can eat it, you know, because we're going to give it to you. That's not the case in Italy. They really eat in the seasons. Now that strawberry in December is not going to taste so good, but you can still buy it. So yeah, but I do think you can recreate. And, you know, for me at this point now, a lot of these foods transport me back. So if you can't make it to Palermo, this is your passport. Go to Palermo through my book, and then when you go there, then you report back and say, Anna, you nailed it. I had it in Palermo, I made it from your book, and check, it was the same.
Okay, so what are your favorite snacks? Let's start in the morning. So after breakfast, do you have a snack at like 10 a.m., something like that?
Well, I mean,
Or right for dinner?
oh, are you saying, do I practice what I preach?
Well, I mean, probably not, because you're here. I'm going to assume
Yeah.
that you can't recreate that.
I can't recreate it all the time, and you know, as we get older, you know, sometimes you can't always have the fried pasta that you might want to have at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But no, I mean, I do think it's great to stop during the day and just have a break. I do eat smaller meals. I told my doctor that's healthier. And I try not to eat too much late at night. So if you kind of circumvent feeling starving at 6 o'clock, if you do kind of snack during the day. I think that for me, what reminds me of my childhood is if mid-morning I can have a little torta di nonna or just like a little ciambella. But the other thing is, and this is something you'll see if you do bake from the book or if you're a baker, Italian sweets are not overly sweet. You rarely find an Italian sweet that has any sort of frosting. They rely a lot on fruits. So a lot of these recipes have lemon zest or orange zest, not that much sugar. And the reason is that they use other ingredients to coax out that sugar flavor and make you feel happy without it being too laden. So you might think, how could I eat a cookie at 10 o'clock in the morning? Well, it's because it's a dry cookie. It tastes good with your coffee, and it's not overly sweet. So, I don't know. I'm making a huge campaign here for cookies in the morning.
Bryn, I mean, this is not even, you know, that's delicious with your coffee. Okay, so let's talk about your career. So you weren't always in the culinary arts. You started in corporate America.
Yeah, that's my deep, dark, dirty secret.
Yeah.
See, you get a reporter in here.
Yep, this is 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
And so you were not sad. It wasn't your true love.
No, so, you know, I graduated from college. I was living in New York City, and I was recruited. I went to NYU. I was recruited by an insurance company, and it was a great opportunity at the time. It was good money. I had been looking for liberal arts majors. I thought, I can do this. So I did. I jumped in with 2 feet. I did the whole corporate track. It was fun. I got to live in the city. I got to afford to live in the city. And then my husband and I, well, it was my boyfriend, then he became my husband. We decided to move to the burbs, which a lot of Manhattanites eventually realize, you know, once the kids comes, your ticket kind of expires and it's time to go. But anyway, we moved out to here, and I had 2 little baby girls, and I just wasn't happy. I didn't feel fulfilled. And, you know, what do you do when you're not happy? Is you call your dad or your mom, and you say, I'm not happy. So I called my dad and I said, this stinks, I don't love my job, I just want to be with my kids and I'm not fulfilled. And he's like, well, you've always loved cooking, and you're always watching Rachel Ray. You're at work when you should be working, and you're on the internet printing out recipes on the computer, the work computer. Maybe you should think about culinary school. So he gave me the courage, my mom gave me the babysitting, and I did it. And I went to the French Culinary Institute for 9 months. Don't ask me how I did it, it's a blur. At night, mom during the day, culinary student at night, I got through that, but I went to career fairs and I said, listen, I love cooking, I love this job, but I can't be in restaurants. I have 2 little girls at home. So I said, well, what do you want to do? What are you doing here? I said, well, what about food media? It seems to be exploding. This was the beginning. So they said, yeah, well, you know some people at Martha Stewart. I was like, Martha Stewart? Okay. So they got me into the test kitchen, and I worked in the test kitchen, and it was such an education.
What is that like? What is Martha Stewart's test kitchen like?
It's exactly what you're thinking. It is pristine. It is run like the military, and you learn a lot, because you could have any opinion you want about Martha Martha Stewart, but her recipes work, and there's a reason that they work.
No, that's fascinating. So let's say an apple pie. So Martha Stewart wants to put in her magazine or publicize her apple pie. So she comes up with a recipe and you just do it over and over until it's perfect? I mean, what happens during that process?
Yeah, you do it till it's perfect. You do it till even the most novice cook is going to be able to figure that out. And there's a couple of things there. So, okay, what are your ingredients? Because we don't want anything too crazy. We want people, this needs to be approachable. So you start with there. Then, how many apples? Well, we want some tart apples, we want some sweet apples. Let's try different combinations. What's too sweet? What's too bitter? Then you need a perfect pie crust. You need a pie crust that's pretty easy to make, and hopefully under an hour. So you just keep whittling away at this idea, and you just keep whittling it down and whittling it down, and then 20 pies in, you say, you know, this is fit to print. And what that did for me was it taught me the engineering of a recipe. It taught me how important chemistry is in cooking. And it taught me about also holding myself to a standard where someone is trusting me with their time, their money, and their stomach. So I need to deliver. You know, and it's not lost on me. This is now my second cookbook. As you can see, Eve's not in the back giving them away for free. You will have to pay for it. And I know that you could go online and you could search up any of these recipes and get them for free. But the difference is, or what I want to present to the world is, number one, something that I find very beautiful that transports you to Italy. It has lots of information about each region, so you can really kind of learn about each region. But also that you know that when you're making my recipe, it's going to work. You're going to buy those ingredients, you're going to take the time out of your day, but at the end of that process, you're going to have something that tastes really good. And don't tell me that you substituted 5 things and it didn't work.
I do love it because you get, you know, beautiful pictures, and you get the recipe, and you get culture. You know, you do spin a yarn about the different regions and how the recipes emerged, and you know that's better than going online.
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
So did you work directly with Martha?
So everyone always asks, what's Martha like? You know, Martha's a professional, and she would come in and out of the kitchen, but no, when I was working there, her show was still on the air full time. So the TV studio was not part of the test kitchen, it was actually 2 different buildings. So I can be very honest in saying I did not work with her directly, or with any length of time that we were together. But you know, when she was there, she'd ask a couple of questions, she'd make sure things were running smoothly, and she'd move on. What she did was hire a whole bunch of incredibly capable women that I still talk to today and respect, that made sure that there was just a very high level of excellence. And if you are someone that cooks and bakes, then you definitely bought cookbooks that didn't work, tried recipes that didn't work, and it stinks. So that's just something that I learned there, and I've helped with.
Do they need volunteer tasters?
Everyone always asks that, and you know, I have to say my neighbors are pretty happy people. You know, I always have my parents come over for taste tests, and yeah, I think tasting is actually very important. So yeah, I'll see if I can help you out.
Thank you. So from there, so that was your first foray into the culinary world, and then what?
Then I went over to Food 52. It's run by Amanda Hester. She used to be the editor of the New York Times cooking section. So she was starting a new community-based website, and I went over to her and I loved it because it was everything that cooking needed to be. It was a website for the people, by the people. You would go on, upload a recipe that you loved, you know, your grandmother's meatloaf, and all the other community members would try it, and then we'd photograph it, and it was really fun. It has transformed over the years. It's now, you know, a little bit more professional, but at its core, it was great. And it's just anything that's an ode to the home cook. I mean, I did go to culinary school. I very much valued that education. But I think that there's also something to be said about the home cook, because there's some really phenomenal home cooks out there, including my mom. So I do really love trying recipes that people email me a lot of recipes. So I do love trying people's recipes and finding things that work. And I think social media has really brought that out in people.
Have you found, has somebody emailed you a recipe that became one of your favorites?
No, I don't know if it's become my favorite, but people will definitely send me their recipes because one thing that's really nice about Italian cuisine and Italian people is they're very passionate about the way their mom does it. So I will get emails like, oh, I tried your meatballs and they're very good, but my grandmother used to, it's like, okay. So, it's fun. But, sometimes people get annoyed or whatever, but I welcome it. I think if you're passionate and you think something should be made a certain way, then I get that. And, we always think our mother's food is the best, so I'm okay with that. But yes, I do get a lot of interesting, we'll call it fan mail.
Yes, I'm sure it is. So, okay, the New York Times cooking section, let's talk about that. That's been such a great addition to the New York Times.
Well, yeah, I've been contributing now to the New York Times cooking section for 2 years. And I have to say, it's up to my game once again. They're very thoughtful. And if you do use it as a resource, I think that is a great thing. I know they charge for it, but again, you are getting recipes that work. It's a very vigorous process.
I'm curious about that because I think that it's so appealing. So I don't always make the recipes. It's very haphazard in my house, but I do think that they're always appealing, and I've been interested in making them. And the way they write about them makes it really appealing. So what is the process to get a recipe on there?
So once I had a recipe, once they engaged with me that they wanted to work with me, I pitched them a whole bunch of recipes that I thought would be good. And of course, trying to stay within like Italian culture and always trying to promote all things Italian, I pitched a whole bunch of Italian stuff. But what I did to set myself apart was I pitched things that I thought were personal to me, but also something different. We all know how to make chicken parmesan, and I love a great chicken parmesan. One, it's not really Italian, and two, you don't need my chicken parmesan, it's fake. You have your own. So I kind of wanted to find hidden gems, things that I thought would really pop. So you send them in, and then they choose the ones that they think will resonate with their readers. And they do a lot of analytical research to find out what their readers want. And right now, what they really feel is that their readers want quick, they want easy, and they want inexpensive, which is actually pretty nice for Italian food because most of our stuff fits that criteria. So you send it in, and you have to go through, make it, write up the recipe, and take photography of what you've done.
You make it at home, and you just take pictures of it, okay?
Yep. And then you send it in, and then 2 people test it. 2 independent people test it in their home kitchens. And then they come back with their questions, concerns, comments, or with my recipes, it's always like, this is phenomenal, it's brand new. But they come back with their feedback, and then you tweak, or you say, no, I'm gonna fight for these pine nuts, even though a little more expensive, because I think pine nuts should be in this dish. And we have a discussion, very, very nerdy, geeky discussion about food. And once the recipe is kind of perfect, well, then we talk about the head note, because a lot of people don't read the head note, but a lot of people do. And the head note gives you a lot of information and background on the dish. And that's edited 3 times. So, I've obviously never written for the Times, but I can only imagine what their journalists go through, because the food section alone. But, I think when you demand excellence, you get excellence, and people notice. So it's on fire. The app is on fire, their Instagram is on fire. It's a really nice place to work. Yeah, I'm very happy.
That's fascinating to hear about the process, because I was wondering why it's so winning. And sure enough, it's all of the, legwork that you do beforehand.
And people are very passionate in the comment section, and they read every comment. And the reason they read obviously it's easy to disregard comments like, oh, I didn't have eggs, so I substituted cream, this was a flop. It's like, so those we can disregard, but sometimes they'll say like, I can't afford to make this recipe, or there was way too much salt. And those are the kinds of things that they say, okay, let's take another look and see, and they don't, this isn't like something too authentic, but sometimes they don't edit things or change things based on a whole bunch of feedback. So they're really listening to the people making food.
That's amazing. And so do you have a particular recipe that got a lot of clicks or got a lot of engagement or there was a fan favorite?
So there's one recipe, and people send it to me all the time because I also do video for the Times because they realized I do pretty good video from home. So I do quite a few videos for my recipes. And I made this chicken dish for them because when I was in Sicily, I had this sauce called salmoriglio sauce, but they put it on fish. It's lemon, garlic, parsley, really simple, but really good. So like, this would taste really good on my mom's chicken cutlets. Because if you're Italian, you know your mom makes chicken cutlets. It's just chicken cutlets with breaded, sauteed, excellent. But I put this sauce on it. So it was starting to do really good on the website, so they asked me to do a video. So I made a video, and the beginning of the video, I'm holding a platter of the chicken, and I say, chicken with salmoriglio sauce. And it has 10 million views. And people send it to me all the time. Oh my gosh, you're in the Times ad. I said, yes, I know. But even though it's a very silly but good video, it's also an excellent, excellent recipe. It's one of my favorites.
But what do you think made it hit it out of the park? It just your enthusiasm, your presentation, it looked beautiful.
Who knows? Do you know the social media algorithms? If you do, I want to know your tracks.
No, I mean, some things, as they say, are thirst traps, which is basically if you look particularly good in some.
I mean, I did look quite phenomenal that day in the kitchen. And that chicken was really showing off, so
I'm pretty sure. And it's delicious. That's amazing. Okay, so soon we're going to get to your comments and questions for Anna, but you're having a dinner party. What do you serve?
All right, so when I have a dinner party, I am my mother's daughter, so there's going to be a lot of food. My mom will have her cousins come, and it's like she's cooking from 5 a.m. till they walk through the door. But, you know, food is love. Food makes you feel welcome, so if you're coming to my home to break bread, then I want you to have a nice meal. And I do follow the Italian rules. I love the idea that you come in, we have a cocktail, we have a little bit of antipasti, make some recipes from the book, then we sit down. I made a nice simple pasta that we're gonna have as our primo. Then I'll have a nice secondo, which is your meat dish. I'm probably gonna make the chicken masala. And then I'm gonna make some nice little sweet that we're gonna have with espresso at the end of the meal. People sometimes say, oh, I don't host because it's so intimidating, I'm so scared to do it. First of all, anyone loves anyone else that's gonna cook for them. And you don't have to be fancy, and you don't have to be, you know, I mean, I'm not saying like Rick opens some Trader Joe's and they call people over, but you don't have to be too fancy, and I think even a nice pasta and a salad, people are just happy to get together, so I think dinner parties are fun.
Okay, what's your go-to aperitivo?
Drink?
Both.
Okay. I know this is going to sound very cliche, but when I was in Venice, I did become quite enamored with the Aperol Spritz. It just really does.
They're so good.
Yeah.
They just work. The Aperol Spritz is so good.
I had to have one on the cover. So
beautiful.
And the thing is, it's a little sweet, you know. I'm not really one for alcohol, so anything that doesn't taste like alcohol is good for me. And I really do think it kind of whets the appetite. It opens everything up. It tastes great with some nuts or, you know, some salty cheeses or meats. It's just really fun, and it's pretty.
It is. It's beautiful. When my mom and I and our family went to Puglia a few years ago, and every sunset, we would have the Aperol Spritz, and it looks like a sunset, and it tastes like a sunset, and it's just such a great way to start the night, you know.
And Venice is probably the snack capital of Italy. So if you like crostini and you like those little bites, the Venetians are known for it. So you get your Aperol Spritz, and you get a couple of little bites, and sometimes that can be dinner.
So give us your favorite little bites for this meal that you're having, that you're throwing for everybody. What do you have with your Aperol Spritz?
So I always, and what I did was, so my mom's meatballs from Heirloom Kitchen became a culture, the phenomenon. They're in the Times, the recipe for calabrese polpette. And what my mom and I did for this book was we adapted them, and we made polpettini, little meatballs. And to make it even easier, my mom's idea, I should have put her name on the cover too. She put them on a baking sheet and we baked them. So that just makes them so easy. You kind of throw them in. Because when your guests arrive, you want to entertain. You don't want to be fussing in the kitchen. Although I kind of hide in the kitchen, but that's me. So yes, you get your little polpettini in. And then another great thing that I love to do is crostini, because crostini are just a fancy word for toasted bread with a little topping. And they have them throughout Italy. And one thing I say is you can travel Italy on the heel of bread. Because if you're in Sicily, you're going to have caponata on top of your bread. And then my grandmother would make peperonata, which is just stewed peppers. And then if you go to Venice, they have baccalà mantecato, which is a whipped fish spread, which sounds strange, but so delicious. So I'll make a whole bunch of spreads the day before, right before people come over. You toast your bread, put on the little spreads, and it's fun. It's a conversation starter, and it's like, ooh, what's this? And I have to try this one. I didn't get to that one yet. So it's just really fun. And I think food should be interactive. It's something we all have to do, and it should be something that we enjoy. And I think Italians really have it right. Food is not just about, getting the calories you're in for the day. Because if that was the case, then we could just, drink a shake in the morning and go on, what was it, Slim Fast? Just be on Slim Fast. I don't know, I'm aging myself for that, right? But, yeah.
Now it's Ozempic.
Yes, now it's Ozempic. But I think it's fun to make dinner, lunch, breakfast, merenda, whatever it is, make it something to talk about. My parents laugh at my son. He's 10, and he has the palate of like a restaurateur. But he'll always talk to me about what he's eating. Like, Mom, this is really good. I'm getting hints of rosemary. Oh, excellent, Dante. There is some rosemary in that.
Because his name's Dante.
Exactly.
That's beautiful.
He does fit the name.
That is so great. Okay, so we're going to open it up in 1 second. Last, for all the readers and writers in here, what was your writing process with the cookbook?
So, different than a novel, which Alisyn has a memoir coming out in awe of it because I don't combat love, I'm plugging it.
Thank you.
I can't even imagine that process. So with a cookbook, it was like, okay, what do I want to do? I want to do Italian snacks. My agent said, excellent, go. So I started researching snacks and saying, okay, how would I do this? And then I got the idea when I started researching about these different times of day. So now it's kind of like plugging it in like a puzzle. And then when I started thinking, okay, I really want to represent every region, okay, so what does that look like? Making sure I have enough from each region. And then, all right, I'm talking about each region in the head notes, maybe I should have a section on the regions. So it kind of like, the book almost like writes itself, that tells you what to do, but it's all through the food. The food is kind of the compass.
That's great. That sounds like such a fun process and the best research assignment ever.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let's open